So, good day, everyone. We're here for another episode of the DVD show. So, for today, we have a former Slam Philippines contributor and also an ESPN 5 sports writer. And he also used to work for CNN Philippines. And now he works in the game as the main host of the show. And he's also a PBA anchor. And he even covered the Spikers turf last season. So, I'll now welcome here on the DVD show, Paolo del Rosario. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. You've had a lot of my friends over. They've only said good things.
Mhm.
Buti na lang okay yung recommendation. Kung hindi, baka wala ako dito.
Yeah. A lot of your friends. I enjoyed their episodes with them because I want to be like in sports media in the future. So they gave a lot of great insights and lessons that I could also impart in the future. So yeah, thank you. So to start things off, I want to ask like, how have you been doing now these past days? I mean, it's after the holiday season, and I watch the game like every day. Like I watch the episodes on YouTube. So how's it been like for you?
Well, like every person siguro, struggling with weight after the holidays. I think that's the
Mm,
number one thing. But then, I am honestly still getting to grips with the fact that ang daming sports ulit. Remember, because of the pandemic, ang daming nawala, everything was
mm,
in a weird situation. So I am getting to grips with the fact that everything has been coming back, is coming back in a more frequent manner. That everything was spaced out, everything was compressed. So it's a
mm,
period of adjustment in a good way, but
mm.
it's a great feeling to know that because sports is a livelihood, is an industry, and it's great to know that we're all coming back to it, and more people are getting into it. The younger generations getting into sports, both in broadcasting and in sports itself, in the actual sporting
Yeah.
field. So it's great to see that I can finally say that it feels like 100% back to normal, because last year felt like one step through the door, but now it
Mhm.
feels like we're on a full sprint right now.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. Like I watched the finals, Game Three in Mo
Yeah.
Arena, and yeah, I felt like pre-pandemic days when they played. And Game Three was one of the most exciting games of the
Yeah.
finals. I think because that's when Ginebra came back to win
Mhm.
that game. But then, yeah, talking about you working on the PBA, I saw your post on Twitter that it's your like fourth year already covering the PBA as an
Yeah.
anchor. So, what was that feeling like? Maybe reminiscing on your certain games or certain
Mhm.
people that you worked with today, since yeah, it's your like anniversary.
Well, syempre, it's funny, I don't memorize the date. I only memorize it, I only remember it kapag lumalabas sa Facebook memories or sa
Oh, okay.
whatever memories. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily commemorate it, but every time it comes up, it's a good reminder of the start. And it's a good reminder of where you were and where you came from. I'm a big history buff. Even
Mm,
when I was in LaSalle, I minored a lot in history. Lahat ng mga optional subjects ko history, and I bring
mm,
that to my career. I remember where I came from, how I started, the skills I had to learn, the people I had to work with, and every time it's always a lesson. So um, it's always such a great opportunity to look back and see and remember how it all began. It's funny because I don't remember the very first basketball game I did cover. I do remember it was Ateneo in the Jones Cup when they
oh,
were in
okay. Yeah.
Taiwan, and then
Yeah.
that was basically me wetting my feet.
Mm,
Signal, when I moved to Signal, they want me to wet my feet there, and then I
mm,
ended up eventually months later in the PBA. So that first time in the PBA, it felt like a bit of a graduation from other leagues to obviously the biggest one, the Mecca in Philippine basketball, which is the PBA. Kaya it's a sweet moment, and it's also a reminder that you know you got there and you got to keep on going. 4 years is a toddler in
mm,
the
yeah.
whole. It's basically it's you're a toddler in this whole industry, especially when you look at some of the vets who've been here for very long times, or Seb Sarmenta,
Mm,
Doc J, uh, and so many others, Attorney Charlie Cuna, Magumar
mm,
John. So many guys have been doing this for so long. So ako, it's just a reminder na sobrang bata ko pa sa industry na to. And a
mm.
lot to learn, as much as I've learned a lot already.
Yeah, it's you've been doing a great job. Like, yeah, I've been watching you a lot now with the game because Yeah, that's where I see you almost what 5 times a week if you don't have other ventures
Yeah.
to work on. But yeah, it's been really a great thing for you that you've been pursuing it. And yeah, it's really great that you can still last. You can last forever. Like sila Mike Green, but they've been doing it for so long. Yeah, sila Sir Seb. So hopefully it continues. But then yeah, you talked about the beginning, and that's where I like talking about also with my guests. So
Mhm.
you, I know that you're like diehard green and white LaSalle.
Yeah.
So you're from LaSalle Zobel, and
Mm.
you went to LaSalle Taft. But then in the beginning, were you already like a diehard sports fan since your dad was like a former basketball player? And how were
Mhm.
you like in your childhood getting in love for sports?
Well, it's weird kasi it my dad wasn't a star player. He was a role player. Minsan bangko
Mm-hmm.
siya. So I mean, like we hear a lot of stories about players who kids of players who were stars like the Ravenas or
Mm-hmm.
any of the Pumarens or so on and so forth. And whoever second generation ballers, Kai Soto even.
Yeah.
Um I mean, like all of, and the Tangs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them grew up with their dad being a big part of teams. My dad was a role player, and
Yeah.
I it became I lived it. I lived and breathed it. It was literally my everyday. Like sometimes my dad would have friends over, and then we be all these basketball players, his imports or a coach. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like literal like they are yung mga oy hi tito hi tito or whatever that I go home di ko kilala pero because of the friends of your dad di
Yeah.
ko alam na
Yeah.
kausap ko na pala si Dennis Espino si
Yeah.
Julian Pot those guys
Yeah.
back in the day or kahit yung mga import pupunta sa bahay namin Google mo si Ansu Sese nandun rin yan sobrang what and then
Yeah.
growing up around it felt normal. It felt like it was just life. It was just how it was. And syempre, I'd always cheer for my dad's teams kasi they pay the bills. And they keep
Yeah.
the lights on. Kung talo sila siguro ano to you worry and but yeah I a lot of that was a lot growing up around sports was it was fun because I could always enjoy it at a deeper level, not just superficial level. I always thought of
Mm.
um how the player psyches, why they do a certain thing, even at a young age, like it not just like shooting, but then why they do this, why they do that, X, Y, or Z, and getting to see them as regular people after kind of changed how I look at quote unquote celebrities because I
Mm.
realized that whoever I see on TV is not the guy I see sa bahay namin or when we go out.
Yeah.
So it changed that whole mentality for me and it eventually helped me out later on in my career. Unfortunately, I was not much of an athlete, which is okay at the end of the
Mm.
day. But
Mm.
it was it it was really fun being able to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and being able to really realize that a lot of the things I had growing up I could use in the future in my career right now, which honestly was not expected to be completely frank.
Oh, okay. So when you were pursuing to become an athlete when you were younger, you really didn't
Mhm.
have that vision like you want to be a commentator or like a
Yeah.
broadcaster. Because me, I mean, I used to play also basketball a lot in
Mm,
grade school and
mm,
high school, but then college I stopped already because I'm not like pang Lasal UAP caliber
yeah.
type. So I
Mm-mm.
really like the commentating side also since before like my ninang would say na I'd say everything while I'm watching na parang ako yung commentator. So
Yeah.
that's something I loved initially. But how about you?
I fell into commentating and broadcasting by accident. To be honest,
Mm.
I remember when I was in. I mean, I tried. It's not that I didn't try to be an athlete. When I was
Mm.
in grade school, I tried out for. I went to grade school in CSA, and then
Oh, okay.
when I was in grade six, I made I started playing football when I was a grade four, around grade four, grade
Mm.
five. And then when I was in grade six, I made the varsity team. And then when I was in grade seven,
Mm.
I decided to play a bit more basketball. And I was like the last guy cut from the team. Then I went transferred
Mm.
to Zubel for high school. And then for their for their team B, yung mga freshman team nila,
Yeah, yeah.
I I failed algebra. So I couldn't
Oh,
join any of the teams. So
yeah.
I spent 1 year getting my grades right kasi dati sa CSA walang algebra. Eh, sa Zobel, may
Oh, okay.
Algebra 1 na sila. So, paglipat ko
Mm.
ng Zobel, wala ako alam sa algebra. So, I failed the hell out of that subject. So, okay, isang
Yeah.
taon, I just started to, and then my second year, okay, sige, try natin ulit, magbasket. So, I started
Mm.
working out again, training with the team. And then, eventually, what happened by my second year? My second year was the year wherein no, I don't think hindi lang ako nakapasok sa team. Yes, hindi lang ako nakapasok sa team. But then the third year, nakapasok ako sa team yung team B, which meant I
Mm.
had 1 year to try to crack team A before my senior
Mm.
year. And then that was the year na suspend yung Lasal sa UAP.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
suspended
Okay, I
both the
remember.
seniors and the juniors. So tinanggal nila yung
Yeah.
team B completely. And then binigay nila lahat ng mga tournaments sa team A. So in
Yeah.
my head, it's God telling me, okay, wag ka na mag-basketball. Wag ka na mag-sports. So
Yeah.
find something else. And because of that, I did theater in high school.
Oh,
High school
okay.
musical ako, except if Zac Efron never played basketball, he only stuck to theater. Ako yun. Ako si Zac Efron. Uh, so, yeah, a bunch of that. And then when I entered, I was artsy, sort of, high school, and then going
Mm.
into college. In college, I ended up taking communication arts and advertising. I actually was into film more. And then
Mm.
I was actually more inclined to film. So all of my minors for communications were all film related, and my
Yes.
thesis was a short film. And yeah, it was this again. This was not in the cards. It was not in the plan. And then eventually, after I graduated college, the whole I just ended up falling into it by accident because I used to play football in grade school. I became a
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
I used my writing to come up with like a few a few
Oh,
vlogs
okay.
before when I was in college about football. Nung lumaki yung Astals back in 2010, and then
Mm.
kinuha ko as a pitch side reporter for yung dating UFL, yung United Football
Oh,
League,
yeah.
after I graduated. That was my
Yeah.
first broadcasting gig. And kinuha ko kasi I auditioned there. I didn't do well in my audition. I didn't make it. And then um I was the first one to come in as a replacement kasi si Joanne Reyes, a courtside reporter for that season, decided to become a yogi and she moved to Nepal for a few months. Kaya
Oh, okay.
dahil sa yoga, naging broadcaster ako. Pero hindi yoga para sa akin, hindi ako flexible. So maraming
Yeah.
salamat, Yogi, Joanne Reyes, namaste.
Yeah. I'm not also flexible. I can't do yoga, or I've never tried, but I know that I'm not
I tried it.
flexible.
To be fair, it helps. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. The NBA players, I hear stories like Kevin Love. I've heard him say
yeah.
that it benefits him a lot, but
Joe
I've never.
Johnson's probably the best one when it comes to yoga. He does a lot of hot yoga. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I have never tried, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't
But
wanna.
yeah, going back to, you said that you tried to write before
Hmm.
blogs. Like, did you ever write for like the Lasallian or something in Lasal, or?
It's funny when you said you were in the Lasallian. I actually did apply to the Lasallian, and
Oh, okay.
I did not end up writing for the Lasallian kasi at that time maraming gustong pumasok sa Lasallian, so they put me in your magazine, the Menagerie.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they made then I guess because sa sobrang dami, or I don't know how the system worked, but then they'd always pair writers in like threes or fours.
Yeah.
So so I don't remember if I even got published there. Maybe I did just one article
Oh,
on lifestyle, but then syempre
yeah.
di ako tumagal doon. I wanted to get into sports, but then
Mm,
sometimes it just doesn't work out also, and you have to find different ways. But
mm,
then I think I've already told you in the first few minutes of this conversation. I think I've told you about more rejections than I've had had yeses. So
mm,
it just goes to show you that minsan, um, the path that you chose might not be the right one, might be close,
mm,
but it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get to where you want to be or get to where you're supposed to be. So,
mm.
so far, so good so far for me. I couldn't write for sports for the Lasallian. I wrote for the magazine. I think it was a I think the article I helped out with was Halloween related. Some one of
Oh,
the
okay, yeah.
one of the urban legends about the church
Yeah.
that you print out every 3 years. So,
Mm.
um, like,
Yeah.
night in the church of where kung saan namatay yung mga yun ng World War II, parang gano'n.
That's
Yeah,
that's a strange topic.
yeah, one of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah, so
Mm.
it happens. But yeah, I tried. I didn't make it though.
Oh, okay. But yeah, with the blogs that you said you made, like what made you start? Because like for me, when I wanted to write also for other publications like Clutch Points, I'm not sure if you know that they write
Yeah.
about NBA.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I wanted to try that, like I wasn't sure at first, like oh, this is something else that I'm not used to. But then why not just give it a shot? And I don't know, I've been enjoying naman. So for you, like during that time, it wasn't as popular as it is now. How was that process for you and continuing to do it?
Well, blogging when I started out, I guess a I had an inclination towards writing to an extent. I
Mm.
enjoyed it. I like telling stories, to be honest. So when I started blogging, I just did it because I didn't have any outlet really. Because
Mm.
if I mean it's funny because people say, oh, you need X amount of experience to get X amount to get Y work, right? But then
Mm.
if you're a writer and you have a hard time getting published, you gotta you gotta put yourself out there sometimes. I mean, like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's basically how kung ngayon people put up TikTok accounts, IG accounts to try and show themselves off or trying to show off what they can do or what they
Yeah.
and all of that. It's basically what I used to do, except I literally wrote. I literally
Mm.
wrote about football or whatever, and then I used to write for independent football
Mm.
publications back then because dati marami eh. And then what I do is that I'd send them my blogs. Hey, do you like how
Mm.
I write? And then
Oh, okay,
they
yeah.
gave me a chance. And then um, once I get published there, ayun, I now have a published article that I can say is part of my portfolio. So,
Mm.
I remember the website I wrote for, soccercentral.ph. And then yung pinag-apply ko doon was my blogs. Kasi,
Mm.
I knew I knew I needed something or someone to
Yeah.
try me out so I can have I can have a bit of a portfolio or I can say I'm a published writer. So yan
Mm.
yung ginawa ko sa simula as a blogger. But again, I did not expect that I would use that skill set eventually as I moved on in my career.
Oh, okay. So yeah, since you've been doing, yeah, you did vlogging, and I know you wrote for other publications eventually, and you did the UFL thing. So after the UFL venture that you had, like, how did you like mix up the broadcasting side and also the writing side? Was that what you were doing when you were still trying to get your feet
Mhm.
wet?
Yeah, when I got I realized that I was very lucky with the whole UFL thing. Again, someone had to move to Nepal for me to get that job.
Yeah.
Second, I also realized that prior to that, the only thing I had to my name or the only thing I had to my working background was the fact that I only had a couple of articles or maybe three, maybe five, maybe six articles on a independent football website that,
Mm.
honestly, longevity wise, probably wouldn't last that long. Um, I knew I needed to build a more solid background. So even when I was working in the UFL, I actively tried to look for a place to write
Mm.
sports because
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a broadcast talent without the credentials or credibility to actually do it. So I applied. I literally just went to different sports websites, checked out yung mga masthead nila, yung mga email doon, and then tried to figure out who I could go to. And then I went to the Solar Sports website, and then it just so happened they had like uh, this graphic saying that, oh, they're looking for writers or sports writers.
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't
Yeah.
sure, so I emailed them. I sent them an email
Mm.
with my resume saying that I was interested. And then they, sa awa ng Diyos, they called me in for a interview. So I
Mm.
went there. And then pagpasok ko sa opisina nila, parang they were moving out eh. Kala ko,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
am I entering a business about to close down? Pala hindi. They were a week after. 2 weeks after I applied, they turned into CNN Philippines.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
they were getting they were getting new talent or new people to fill in certain positions. So they told me that so they had, and then the funny thing was when I got in the process of being hired,
Mm-hmm.
they were already in the final testing stages for that position that they wanted me for, and I just came in that day. But
Mm.
when we had the conversation with the HR and then
Yeah,
pumasok
yeah.
yung boss, he was like, just take the test now also, sabay natin yung mga processes with the other people. I'm like, okay, sige, why not? I mean, like,
Yeah.
chamba, I guess. And then eventually, I ended up getting the position, but they told me I had to leave the UFL because CNN rules
Mm.
were you can't be part time, you have to be full time. So I tendered resignation sa UFL TV5, and then I was there for 3 months. I was there for 3 months at TV5 before I moved on, and then decided to build my own portfolio, build my own credibility as a sports writer muna. And I did that for a year as a sports writer sa CNN. So hindi ako nag-on cam. My first appearance
Wow.
on
Mm.
camera for CNN was as a was as a man on the street interview for a package in CNN. It was about the rising price of data usage. And then
Wow. Okay.
the question I was asked was, so how often are you on your phone? And I'm like, well, I'm on my phone a lot given my job.
Yeah, yeah.
pero yung tag ko, Paolo del Rosario, avid data user. Yan yung nakalagay sa bar ko sa CNN. Tapos, yan yung CNN Philippines debut ko. The reporter was Isabella Montaño. And then that was the first time I was on TV. And I was
Wow.
there behind the computer saying
Yeah,
that, yeah, I use the internet a lot and I need the data. So, the prices are concerning.
yeah.
Mga ganun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was a start. That was a start. I knew I needed the background. I knew I needed I needed the proof that I knew what I was talking about, that I knew what was going on, and I wasn't afraid of the grind. So my way of doing that was showing the work. Kasi para sa akin, so easy to get work because of my last name, because of
Mm.
that name, right? Kasi Del
Yeah.
Rosario, I look like the guy. And I sound like him from time to time. People think that, oh, yung humor nyo, yung ano nyo,
Yeah.
parang ganun lang.
Oh,
And I'm like, nah, ako, maybe that's pressure from the name. But at the end of
yeah.
the day, it did me well kasi I knew I needed the bedrock to show everyone I'm not coasting. I needed to
Mm.
show that I wanted the background, the body of work, the proof na this is a craft that I respect, and I will make sure na it's going to be something I really appreciate, and not take for granted. Because it's hard work for a lot of people, and sometimes it's going to be a really tough road. And for me, that start was me paying my dues to make sure na okay, I'm not here for the easy route. I'm not doing this job kasi nandyan lang and pwede kong kunin.
Mm.
No, it's something I
Mm.
really want to work for. So ayun, yun yung simula ko.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you talked about the grind and the hard work part of being like in sports media, because yeah, there are other you could do other jobs naman on the side, but if you want to be someone in media, sometimes you don't get like the financial compensation right
Yeah.
away, or
No,
people think
you
like
won't.
yeah, people think like they grow impatient and then try other things because they want like yeah, they want to earn money right away, or they want to be on the like on the top of the ladder right away. But how would you like yeah, tell people that that's not the way, and how would you like tell them to continue persevering, because others may think now it's not sustainable, like if they have a family already, especially if you're a guy, like how will you support if you just continue doing sports media or sports broadcasting?
To be completely honest, I wouldn't recommend that this is a job or this is a field that you enter na ito lang, unless you have um you have a you have something that is secure for an extended period of time, maybe a
Yeah.
contract that will last for like a year or two or so forth or so on. Kasi it's for some people it's project based yung bayad, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's a reality. So there's a reason why, like, Charlie Cuna. He's attorney Charlie Cuna. He's an
Yeah.
attorney. The Kinito Henson does a lot on the side in terms of media, in terms of helping out, in terms of his writing. He does a lot to make sure that to make ends meet. Um, you take a look at Sir Sev. He's not just a broadcaster; he's also a professor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of slashing going around in terms of you media, and for some that might mean you can't commit to it 100% like you would want to.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, and I'm sure you know his name, si Chacaraneta,
Yeah.
was a broadcaster but also worked for marketing and still a broadcaster right now. Is with the NCAA and still working
Yeah.
in the office with GMA. So it's a passion thing, but at the same time, you also have to be realistic about the financial capabilities and of course the finances involved in it. It's a very rewarding job. It can help you in your life in general, in whatever career you decide to take along with it. But it's always going to be it's if there is a way to make this your thing, like 100% focus on that. I personally, that's how I've been approaching it, because I've been lucky with the connections I've made throughout my career, with the choices I've made throughout my career, and with the decisions I've made also, to make it more sustainable for me. So there are just so many factors to consider, and you also have to consider the realities of life that go along with it. And obviously, if you're from a um, let's say not so lucky background, you have to look around and figure out whether or not this is something sustainable for you and your family. And if you're from a luckier background or a more privileged one, then you probably have more leeway to actually invest in this and try and make it more sustainable in this way as well. So maraming pag-iisipan. And
Mm.
that's what I would tell people, that because a lot of people actually have asked me if this is what I do only, and if this is a
Mm.
thing that and if this is a thing that keeps me going. And I'm like, yeah, this is. Obviously, I still have other jobs I get on the side as well, yung mga racket na with permission I
Yeah.
can take. Uh, it's just that a lot of it is that you gotta be intelligent with and realistic with the stuff that you're getting, that you can get, and of course the jobs that you can accept and take. It's basically a freelancer job for a lot of people, so be you have to be smart with the way that you go about it. And there's a way to make a great living out of media. And I hope for those who want to go into it, they find it. But at the same time, be pragmatic about it also.
Mm, yeah, I agree with what you said 100%. Yeah, because yeah, that's what people also tell me. Like, if since they know I'm passionate with sports and I'm like perfect for if you're like somewhere there in the future, like it
Yeah.
can't be the only one. That's why my parents also told me to like take business management. That's why I'm business management in LaSalle, so that there's something else also you could do on the side related to your course. And yeah, since my parents were both marketing and LaSalle, so yeah, that's why also I took that course in college. But yeah, I wanted to ask more about you. And you mentioned that you took you like numerous years before finding like your position now in like the game and PBA anchor. So yeah, you mentioned that you did sports writing in CNN for like a year. So did you ever like encounter like roadblocks that you felt that you should not continue with anymore, or were you always like persistent that you felt that you really loved sports and broadcasting and you wanted to continue until wherever?
Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that I know you're taking since you mentioned you're taking business management. That's actually the reasoning my family gave me also. So I was communications and advertising. So I was Leacom. So the
Okay.
advertising part was supposed to be my quote unquote safety net. And right after
Okay.
college, I applied to like 6 or 7 different companies, and I only got interviewed by two, and didn't get any accept. I didn't accept it to any. So when I so sports, again, sometimes roads close. You find the right ones. You find the right roads that will keep you alive, or will find you, or get you to where you should be. Um, has there been a spark? Yeah, I mean, like, I've been offered more hard news roles when I in throughout my career, and that means veering away from sports because it's hard to do both. I mean, there are very few people who do both. TJ Manotox probably who comes to mind, but he's
Mm-hmm.
based in the States. He's basically running the North American
Yeah.
bureau for CBN, and he's still sort of the sports guy. But at the same time, Ren, I mean, like it's very rare to find people who could do both. And people have told me before that maybe longevity wise, it would be better for you to do news. Because it might be something that you could excel in. I've been told that, I've been asked that, and I have done it. I have done news. That so it's not coming out of nowhere. Hard news.
Mm-hmm.
It has come out of nowhere. Pero I was honestly stubborn, and I wanted to stick to sports, make it my own, make it my niche, make it my a bit more of my identity professionally. So
Mm-hmm.
I stuck to it. But yeah, I mean, like there are always gonna be moments wherein you feel like, hey, could I have more? Could I have more of this? Could I have more of that? Could I? Should I look for something more stable, something less, uh, I guess, sporadic or
Yeah.
erratic? Right. So I mean, like there's always going to be that throughout your career or throughout your life in general. So I mean, I can't name a specific one apart from the offers to do more hard news and
Mm-hmm.
less sports. So, but yeah, I mean, like to be honest, it's my career has been a lot of movement and a lot of adjustment. So it has kept me on my toes and kept me more, I guess, into what into the flow. Still being into the flow of how the industry is going and how I do my work with TV5 and Signal.
Okay. So yeah, since you mentioned already other ventures that like that the news that they were
Mm.
interested in you. What was like the springboard for you when you were in CNN before you even got into like TV5 and Signal again? Because you were there with them already in
Yeah,
UFL, right? So yeah,
yeah,
what was the springboard for you? And I guess think you got like on cam stuff already in CNN based from
yeah.
what I remember before you moved back to TV5.
Yeah, when I was in CNN, so I was a year as a sports writer for a year for their CNNPhilippines.com. And then I they decided to experiment with me as a reporter, field reporter for their sports coverages or anything related to
Okay,
sports.
yeah.
Yeah, so they tried it because they didn't have a sports reporter before. So they tried it, and then they created a new position for me, which was called a multimedia producer, which was a field reporter, but at the same time, I still wrote for you online,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't use the sports reporter every day. So and then eventually they were like, "Oh, he can do more than sports." And then
Yeah.
he then he did- I hosted presidential debates, presidential
Oh, okay.
forums in
Yeah, yeah.
2015. I hosted the
Mhm.
forum of President Rodrigo Duterte when he was still Mayor Duterte in UP. Lenny and Kiko, Lenny and Mar Rojas's forum in FEU, and Grace Pose in, I forgot when I did where I did Grace Pose, but then yeah, I did a lot, and then I I even had to do election debate recaps, vice presidential debate recaps. So
Mm.
they made me do political stuff also. So that's when they're like, oh, he can do other stuff. The first show they gave me was not
Yeah.
sports. I was a traffic reporter. I,
Yeah.
I I was a traffic anchor. They made me do other stuff too.
Mhm.
And then Miko Halili, who was the host of Sports Desk back then,
Oh, yeah.
PM, when he'd go, he one time he went on vacation for 2 weeks in New Zealand, and then he wanted me, because I was already the sports reporter, to pinch it to be his sub.
Mm.
And but then the consensus was you can't trust him kasi bago lang siya. So they gave me a co-host, si Bea Fabregas,
Oh,
who
yeah. Yeah.
came in. So for 2 weeks, Bea Fab and I was the host for that show. And then eventually, like, oh my gosh, he can host pala. He can host Sports Desk. So si Nico, kapag absent siya, "Oh, Pao, get in. Go do the show." So that happened around siguro second to my third year. So my first year and the second year and the third year, there was a clear progression in my career.
Mm.
Long story short, there's a clear progression in my career. But then they told me that they wouldn't let me move to um, Signal and TV5 to be a commentator on the side because
Mm-hmm.
my contract was a lot different from the anchor's contract with the CNN because it was possible. There's a reason why I was optimistic when I got an offer kasi from TV5 and Signal to be a PBA broadcaster,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I thought that I had hope kasi si Andre Felix, who is still in with CNN Philippines, was also
Mm-hmm.
covering UAAP games for ABS-CBN. But
Mm-hmm.
then because the contracts were different, I couldn't go. And then I realized that even after Miko Halili left, Charles Chu took over sports desk in the evening, and then Andre Felix still had the sports desk in the morning. There was not much room for me to grow. So it was personally a decision that I took for my I if I did move to Signal and TV5, it would have meant I would have done things that were different. So I just try to do new things different year after year after year, and that was one of the reasons why I did make that leap, make that jump, because I felt that this is another opportunity to grow, to do something I've never done before, which was call actual live sports, ideally basketball, ideally PBA, and ayun. So that's why I made the jump. That's why I made the decision to move, and that's why I, made the leap, and that's why you're probably talking to me today.
Yeah, that's definitely a great reason on why, yeah, you're here on the podcast. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. This
well,
my whole career led me to this. So
yeah, to be on the DVD show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But being in the PBA, I mean, being an anchor, it's different from like you being a host or like a correspondent type in CNN. And sometimes when you're an anchor, like, but there are
mm,
mistakes that you say, like you say everything, like whatever the players are doing, and parang radyo siya na the people can't see it, and then
yeah.
you tend to like say everything talaga that's happening on the court, like some mistakes like that. So how did you start off like being there? Like you said, you mentioned the Jones Cup like
Mhm.
minutes ago as the first game that you had as a basketball commentator in Signal. So how was the learning curves there, and how did you see that progression that you were also mentioning that you had before in CNN? Since you're a basketball fan already, so it's natural for you to love the PBA, but it's different if you're talking for like 2 hours.
Yeah. Obviously, it was a shell shock kasi when I was in CNN, okay, I'd anchor a show maybe for let's say 24 minutes, but then it's a Q&A, and then
Yeah.
when I was a reporter, my packages, the stories that we'd run normally would last from a minute 30 to 2. And then
Mm.
syempre nung sumanong ako sa Jones Cup, 10-minute quarters, you're
Mhm.
talking for an hour 45 minutes and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then you're worried about about being quiet, and you're worried about the things that you say, if you're being correct or and all of that, and then you're worried about the people listening to you.
Mm.
Because there's always going to be nerves there. Um, yeah, the uh, it's it's funny kasi at least back then during yung time ko, there was no real training eh. Sasalang kayo, it's sink or swim. They'll give you a screen test, they'll test you out, and then they're going to say, oh, mukhang kaya naman. Then they're going to throw you to the fire. Um,
Mm.
so they try that was the Jones Cup was basically my proving ground to show everyone that I could actually talk about it. And
Mm.
since I've been watching the sport all my life, I've been watching the broadcast all my life. I try to pick the best of those I've ever listened to, and try and find my own voice. And eventually I think I sort of did. But then it wasn't immediate. Hindi lang Jones Cup and then after that anchor ka agad ako sa PBA. It was
Yeah.
Jones Cup and then nag-courtside reporter ako for PBA Rush, and then they made
Oh,
me
okay.
anchor for PBA. So
Mm.
it was a progression, and kudos to Signal for not just throwing me into the fire. They gave me a few reps that were relatively, I wouldn't say too. they were easy, no, but it was, I guess, if you can compare it to a PBA game, due respect to the Jones Cup, covering Ateneo against yung Team B ng Republic of China,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not as I guess something as climactic as like Manila Classico or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. So again, it was the progression that I had to take, and it's just learning by doing, and then being honest with yourself, rewatching yourself, and then listening to yourself again, and trying to figure out what's the best way you can go about it, and of course, working with your partners who have probably done it longer than you. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of combinations of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned about working with partners, and now like with analysts, mas nauuso na ngayon yung former player or like even current player like sa UAAP. I'm pretty sure you watch UAAP. Like sila Sean Ildefonso, sila Diego Dario, like, they're still playing and they're great analysts. So you've been an anchor and you've been with like former players like I guess sila Vince Hizon, but then you've
Yeah.
also been with like the tenured ones like sila Kinito Henson and sila Andy Howe. So how do you like adjust based on these people? Because like the stuff that they want to talk about or how they want to deliver what their thoughts are on certain junctures of the game. Like how do you study that? How do you like paano mo pinibase, you know?
Well, it's like when you work with someone for the first time, it's like going on a first date. All right. You
Mm.
gotta get to know them. All right. So, before the game, when you have your pre-prod,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
listen to their comments, you listen to how they talk, how comfortable they are, you chat it up with a bit, small talk kayo, and then you try and figure out what type of connection they want, or what type of dynamic they want. See, Doc J sees everything. He's so smart and snappy.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
there's some analysts that would require more activation, so you have to have a conversation with them. Analysts want to be looked at when they're talking, because
Mm.
they don't,
Yeah, yeah.
like again, they don't say like, "Hey, look at me." No, but you can feel that they're more comfortable if you have eye contact once they're talking, so it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like they're speaking to the ether, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of finding out, especially I've been lucky enough to work with new analysts and then a really veteran analyst, and each of them have their own flavor. Your job as an anchor kasi is to make your analyst look good,
Mm-hmm.
because the analyst is smart. The analyst is there for a reason. The analyst is there because they've put so much into the game. The amount of knowledge that they have is probably greater than yours, if more often than not it is. And when you work in tandem, kumbaga, the anchor is the point guard, and then
Yeah.
you're gonna give the alley oops. I
Mm.
will try to get Doc J as many alley oops as I can. I swear to my goodness, he will finish it 360,
Yeah.
blindfolded all the time. I just have to dish it out well, and
Mm.
it's stuff like that. You gotta figure out the rapport with your analysts on almost a day-to-day basis, especially if you haven't worked with them before. But when you're comfortable, obviously it's easy, it's fun, and you're more concerned with the game itself. But yeah, it's a lot of first dating, honestly. It's a lot of first dating, getting to
Yeah.
know them, getting to find out how you can make them comfortable, how you can make them express well and share their ideas well. So, you know, uh, there's no one true answer to it. It's more of trying to figure out how things work out, and the whole dynamic that you can build off with your analysts and your courtside reporters also. Actually, you can't forget
Mm-hmm.
about them, every member of your broadcast. So
Yeah.
it's a big team effort, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot more effort than people realize, in a good way, because syempre you love building the connections, and when it all
Mm.
clicks, it's so fun.
Yeah. And yeah, I also wanted to touch on, you mentioned the humor part a while ago that you people say you and your dad have similar humor. And syempre pag coverage, iba minsan hindi naman
I just want
kailangan.
to say, I'm a cornier version of my dad, which is really bad. If people, yeah, I'm not as funny as my. Admittedly, he's a lot more funnier than I am. I have my
Mm.
own charm, I think.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. the whole humor thing with my dad. It's yeah. People think kasi he's funny. I'm like, seryoso ba kayo? Anyway, yeah. You were saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like in a coverage, like since it's like 2 hours or like 1 hour and 45 minutes, people want some like fun things going on, not like serious stuff about the game or X's and O's only. So for you, like as an anchor, how do you balance that? Na, like people say like they have not monikers also, but they have like lines like Mikey Reyes says butter or like Magu says Bastos jam or like may kasama pang foul, like those stuff, like how do you balance that there's like entertainment value and seriousness, like especially now you're anchoring and people listen to you and they have various feedback, like depends, some people might say it's too much, or like since you say that you listen to yourself, so how do you like gauge that when you like play back the games that you called?
Yeah. First of all, you have to realize that you can't please everyone. You'll always
Mm-hmm.
have haters. You'll always and it's fine. Everyone will have their preference. I mean, like not not everyone is going. There's no universally like person. I think on TV or in broadcast, there's always going to be someone, and the haters are always louder than the ones who are
Yeah.
okay with you.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Second, uh, you have the job is entertainment. You watch
Mm.
sports for entertainment. It's not about being snooty and knowledgeable. It's
Mm-hmm.
obviously part of it in the sense that you need, what's happening on screen needs to be explained also. So from time to time. But at the end of the day, I personally don't have any signature lines like
Mm.
Magu's Bang. James Velasquez used to have breaking ankles and breaking hearts.
Oh yeah.
See, yeah, Butter from Mikey,
Mikey.
Yes Sir from Miko. I mean, everyone has their own
Yeah.
thing. But for example, Kinito Henson doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Uh, Sir Sev, his style is that he's just so emotional and nadadala ka.
Yeah.
When a big moment happens, sometimes he just says yes, yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
napapano ka, napapasama
Yeah.
ka.
Mm.
Um, it's about feel and knowing the flow, and it's about being comfortable in realizing that it's a show, that you're not doing this for yourself. Huwag ka ma-inlove sa boses mo.
Mm.
It's about making sure that you can throw in a few jokes here and there, but then people aren't there for stand up, people are there for a game.
Mm-hmm.
People don't tune in for you also. They tune in to watch Gilas. They tune
Yeah.
in to watch Ateneo Lasal. They tune in to watch
Yeah.
Ginebra. They're not there to watch me. They're not there to listen to me. They can mute
Yeah.
me and they'll still
Yeah.
enjoy what's happening. Some
Mm-hmm.
might want to mute me when I'm
Mm-hmm.
on, but then and that's gonna be okay. At the end of the day, for me, it's you being entertaining. It just you have to have fun. When you
Yeah.
have fun at your job, when you have fun at what's happening, it shows also in your work. And that's where the whole comfort level comes in. Me personally, I'm most critical about myself when it comes to Gilas games because I
Oh
am
yeah.
nervous as heck. And I don't have as much fun because I'm scared.
Yeah.
And that's why I personally think that my poorest performance are Gilas games, which sucks because that's the most watched one. It really is. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I wish people could. The most fun I have is actually doing football games because I feel like even though it's 2 hours and
Mm.
people are saying like, oh, it's like nothing's happening. I can fill up that 2 hours easy because that's my main sport. That's the sport
Mm-hmm.
I played the best in. I still play it today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's and and you can tell that you can tell my comfort level when I call Askel's game compared to Gila's games, and
Mm.
it's not because that I know the sport less. It's
Mm.
because I objectively have more fun calling Askel's games, but
Yeah.
Gila's game is such a privilege. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
nervous. I want to do well, and to be fair, I think I do okay. It's just that I know that there's another level I could reach, and hopefully I can reach that. Hopefully I get more chances, and I'm looking forward to it. And when I have fun, I know that people will also have fun with me, and that's what I
Mm.
want to look for. I tried that last game that we had here. Um,
Saudi,
when I was
I think.
not was it? Yeah, I think the Saudi game. I called that
Yeah.
game, and then
Yeah.
um, and then I remember. and I felt a lot more comfortable in that game. I still
Mhm.
felt I could have done a lot better, but I felt a lot more comfortable, and I felt that I did okay there. And um, and I remember because I've called a bunch of Gilas games. I thought like, what can I figure out kapag Clarkson and Kai Soto connect, because they always do. And I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
popped out. I just said from Utah to Adelaide. It's
Yeah,
Clarkson,
yeah, yeah.
Clarkson to Soto. So there's just moments like that, and then you have times where you can highlight certain things with different words that people are not used to. So there's more emphasis there. It's different and it's fun. So yeah, but for me, have fun within the bounds have fun while realizing why people are watching.
Mhm.
You're not there to be funny. You're
Yeah, yeah.
there to make the game more accessible, more memorable. You're there to
Mhm.
paint it. You're there to color it, and
Mhm.
that's the way to go about it. And I personally can't wait to color and paint more Gilas games in a better way. As you can tell right now, my frustration is Gilas games because I want to get more comfortable and more and I want to get more I get less nervous. But then that
Mhm.
also it helps me connect to the Gilas players also. If I'm
Yeah,
nervous
yeah.
calling the game, could you imagine how they feel when they play it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ako kinakabahan nga ako, magsasalita lang ako eh. Eh sila,
Yeah,
tatakbo, tatalon,
yeah, yeah.
magsushoot,
Yeah.
dinedepensahan si Yanis.
Yeah.
Ang hirap kaya nun. Oo,
Yeah,
na-nervous na
yeah.
ako, nagsasalita lang ako eh. Sila,
Yeah.
susundan nila si Tony Parker dati.
Yeah.
Grabe, wala.
Yeah.
Hirap. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, empathy, a lot of empathy.
Yeah. When I had Sir Sev also on the podcast, it was the day after we lost to Lebanon and
Mm.
Sir Kenito became trending because he kept saying
Yeah,
something about Arakji. And yeah, he was saying
yeah.
ang hirap about Gilas games because people have so many things to say about
The emotions
you.
are different.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the emotions are different. And that, yeah, that game was different, even if it wasn't that close and Lebanon beat us in that game. But then, yeah,
Mm.
since you mentioned Gilas and a lot of your PBA games, I wanted to ask, like, what are your like memorable games, whether for good reasons or bad reasons? Like, what stand out among all these games that you called? Maybe even football, since I know a bit of it. Maybe like, why do these games stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, like you remember the historical ones. I think my most memorable one has to be. It's my most memorable one's a football one. It was the when the Filipinas qualified for the World Cup when they had
Oh
that
yeah,
penalty shootout against Chinese Taipei. I called that game,
yeah, yeah, I
and
remember.
I was dying. I mean, like that last penalty. If you listen to the broadcast, you could go through it yourselves. If you listen to the
Yeah,
One Sports broadcast and my commentary, I was dead quiet when Serena Bolden was about to take her kick because I
yeah,
was about to explode. I was so
yeah,
nervous. I could not come up with words.
yeah.
That when she hit that goal, all I could say was her name and
Mhm.
over and over again. And when and it's funny because I posted a video
Yeah,
of the
I
ball
remember.
with Mariel Benitez, and
Yeah,
when there was a time na nakatulala lang ako, I was just staring at the screen. Pati si Mariel, hindi niya alam kung ano nangyayari. She was also freaking out. Eh. And then I just went
yeah.
on with a little monologue because I had to. Not because I had to, because it just came out. That for me, that's
Mm.
my most memorable game that I called because of what it meant to Philippine sports in general. That was a big deal.
Mhm.
I also I mean, like, it's hard to pinpoint out games eh. Kasi I don't normally call finals games because I don't call Hinebra games because people think I might be biased.
Oh,
And Hinebra's
okay.
always in the finals these
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
honestly don't like it's um with all due respect to the other teams, Hinebra are always in the finals recently.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have a lot of memorable games sa finals. So I can't say that I have a lot of memorable games pang PBA. Of course I covered like a lot of milestone games like for example when Miles Powell hit that 50 on Rain or Shine in 3 quarters. That was crazy.
Yeah.
I had the chance to call um I had the chance to call a few buzzer beaters, a few really memorable games. But I wouldn't say na if you I couldn't identify a lot personally.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, like, it's funny because a very good friend of mine, Carlo Pamintuan,
Oh
I
yeah.
think this might be the weightlifting call he had for Heidelin Diaz because it was a
Oh
gold
okay.
medal.
Yeah.
So really, the trend here is that it's not about how we did during a certain event, but more of if we had the privilege to be the voice to a historical one. And I think that's where all the weight is. It's to earn the right to call, to be the voice of a certain moment. And for me, that's why for me, the Filipinas making it to the Women's World Cup is probably the biggest achievement in Philippine sports that I had the privilege to be the voice of. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
that's my most memorable one. And I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos was Heidelin Diaz's gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just it's different kasi. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
you. It's not about what you
Mm-hmm.
say. If it's what you say, then it would be the times I make my anchors, my analysts laugh so much that they forget what they're doing. And
Yeah.
that has happened, by the way. Even with my favorites has been si Doc J, RK
Mm.
Ilagan. RK Ilagan hits a go ahead bucket, and syempre freaking out. RK Ilagan with a dart to the heart puts the Converge Fiber Xers up by Alaska sila nun. Put
Ah.
Alaska up by 4, parang ganon. And then after
Oh.
that, next play na, something's happening. Si Doc J turns to me and he says, I like that, Paolo. That's like right to the heart. That's like Shakespeare. Thanks, Doc. And on the other side, they score two. Parang ganon. Yung mga ganon. Like there's
Yeah.
stuff like that. Moments like that like mga little anecdotes, pero
Mm.
memorable. It's when the athletes succeed to a different degree, to a different level. Kasi again, it's never about you. It's about what you're
Mm.
watching.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really watch the Filipinas. I mean, I wasn't familiar with a lot of their players before that tournament. But then now, like it's 2023, so
Yeah.
excited to see how they can perform in the World Cup. Like, is it the first time that we've ever made it?
Yes, the
For,
first time we've ever made it to the World Cup. Kaya,
yeah, so it'll be
again,
exciting.
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But then I wanted to ask you, like, since you mentioned already, like at the start of the episode about how sports has changed in the pandemic, and like there's a lot of new things also, like how you cover the Olympics, or even with the game, like there you didn't have the game before the pandemic, or podcasting, like people have more podcasts, like your colleagues, they have their own, and there are other things like you can call games now, like in Reliance in the TV5, like there's people there calling the games, and there's also people calling in the venue. Like years back, those weren't possible, and there's like a lot of new innovations and growth in the sports media landscape in the Philippines. So what do you think they could do like next? Like could we have a show like Inside the NBA or First Take, something like that? Or I don't know, something else. Like there used to be something, an active center before, where your dad used to be part of that. Like, what
Yeah.
other things could be popular or like be hyped up here in the country?
Yeah, I mean, like, you look there are a lot of people thinking of ways to do different things, different projects, different ways to make the broadcast more interesting, give people more options. Right now, you already have a couple of options. Imagine mo, you have uh, TV5, PBA Rush, and then yung Smart Live Stream
Mm-hmm.
and then they all have different panels. Same with the UAP. You have the One Sports, and then uh,
Sports League.
the smart live stream, and then who knows, baka yung UAP channel will have their own commentary team also. But in other words,
Um,
there's a lot of saturation going on right now in terms of how you want to consume sports or new content. Some people are happy doing it via social media because they can't yung mga highlight watchers lang, they're okay with that, they
mm,
don't have time for the full game. um, some people are on the road more, they prefer it on their palms or tablets. Some people are more old school, they want it on TV, they want um the changes for me, I think it's dependent on the technology. I wouldn't be surprised if more people find ways to use technology to to do different things. Like, could there be a show that's just no, sorry, there are really, for example, volleyball. There are shows on social media apps dedicated to what's happening right then and then sa PVL, and then like kada set, like there's like mga show or whatever, or there's a pre-game and there's a post-game, pero sa social media app lang nila yun.
Hmm.
And then yeah, there are different ways to go about it, and this is a very creative ways to go about it. TikTok is trying a thing wherein they're doing esports on their live streams. So
Oh, okay.
they can do that as well. If TikTok gets into doing that for live sports here, who knows if that
Mhm.
changes the landscape also. It's easier right now to book streaming services. To, for example, you can go online and then you can look for actual live streams of ultimate frisbee, touch
Yeah.
foot, ganon, and then their
Yeah.
actual competition. So there's the technology has put everything in overdrive. The market is a bit saturated, and that, for me personally, that's okay because that means more work for those who want it, for those who can get it, and that means that the industry is growing in many ways. So I'm excited by it. I'm going to be surprised that there are going to be more avenues, more channels, more talents as well. People feel that they're more camera ready because they're on their webcams or their TikToks or their IG. Put you in the studio. Let's see what happens when you're in front of a TV camera and millions are watching. Tignan natin ang mangyari. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's that. There's a lot of that. So there's so many the new generations coming up that are more social media savvy, that are creating more content, more ways to consume media. I think that's going to be the next step. Like people turning to certain personalities uh, for their content with regards to their favorite team, their favorite sports, and all of that. And like for example, like this, like if there are going to be a few people who prefer the way you do interviews, the way you do your sports coverages here and on this platform, then that would be their way, and
Yeah.
that's their way of to grow in the industry also. So, but then in terms of like wide scale, like is there what's the next step to cover the UAP, next step to cover the PBA? My bosses will think of that and sana isipin nila ako and they'll use me for those executions. So yeah, hopefully tignan natin.
Yeah. How about you? Like as a fan naman, or as a supporter of some sports or teams or even players, how do you like prefer the content? Like, do you just watch the games? Do you watch highlights, or do you listen to podcasts? Like for you, like if you were in their perspective of like trying to be like the consumer, like what do you prefer when it comes to sports content?
I try I'm old school a bit. I like reading. I subscribe to I actually subscribe to some websites that are for sports content in terms of articles and all of that. And then of
Mm.
course consuming highlights also on socials, that's also really great.
Mm.
Certain podcasts from syempre pilihan, like okay, who are the
Mm.
ones that cover the teams closest, who they're the ones I'm going to follow, and like and yeah, and again it's entertainment, eh. Like this whole it sometimes the stuff that happens in between games is more fun than the game itself. uh Case in point right now, Lebron Lopez with UP and Ateneo, that's so fun to watch from a distance. Like it may be more entertaining than when LeBron actually plays in the UAP. At least
Yeah.
for me it is at the moment, so you
Yeah.
never know. Yeah, there's may mga ganon. Yeah,
Mm.
the stuff that happens in between the games is actually really fun also, and I like looking for that fun, in whatever way, shape or form.
Yeah. Sorry to all the Ateneo fans. No more LeBron Lopez. Like, yeah,
Well,
for me.
let's see who else they can get, because honestly, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
This is not gonna stop.
Yeah. But that's so funny. Like, for me and my LaSalle friends, like, we're just laughing. Like, we don't really care. But then this whole week, last week, they were all having their own comments when Naveen posted the picture of Carl and LeBron hugging. And it's just a
Mm-mm.
bit blurry. So,
Yeah,
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 that was,
and then yung timing pa, no? I mean, like the timing that so may bonfire pa na announce.
yeah.
Grabe.
That,
And then it's PR. I mean, like it was planned. My
mhm.
goodness. It's pretty pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, like again, the pettiness is so fun.
Yeah.
The all of that is so fun. Sports is
Yeah.
petty in
Mm.
and basta walang personalan, okay siya, masaya siya. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned kanina nga that you were like a fill-in like host only in sports desk before, but then now that you have the game, like you're the main host. So I'm curious, since I don't know, I've watched it since the first episode,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, since it's not that long, naman, so it doesn't take up like a lot of
Mhm.
the day. Like you could like fast forward the commercials on YouTube.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you do watch it there, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
know.
where I.
Yeah, I do. It resolution's better there than in Facebook.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I watched it on YouTube, and like it's like what 20 minutes only if
Mhm.
you watch like the three segments. So how did that start? Like, did they offer you initially, and were you like G to do it right away? Like, how was that like? It was in the middle of the pandemic, also.
Yeah. It was in the middle of the pandemic. Miko Halili was actually one of the guys who conceptualized it. He just
Mm.
moved into Signal. He wanted to try to create sports property because TV5 and Signal basically didn't have one. They used to
Mm-hmm.
have one in Sports Center, but then when the ESPN
Oh yeah.
license and the franchise didn't work out, it was empty. And then eventually there was that whole acquisition for all of these different licenses. Putting up a show like the game just seemed to be it was just a necessity almost for the company, and creating it as a initially they wanted it to be more news like. um that's how I says my first episode nakatay pa ako. We're on one news primarily, and then
Mm-hmm.
we try our best to, we at the start it was a bit formal, I remember. And
Yeah.
eventually we started getting more loose, we started getting understanding, and now personally I treat it like a sports talk show rather than a sports news show.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's again, it's all started. Miko Halili was a very important part of it, and at that time, that was when our colleagues from ABS-CBN, they found themselves without work, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, there were also a lot of great freelancers, and Miko was given free reign to bring in the people that that he felt could make a big difference for the show and to the company. So yung executive producer ko namin sa The Game was actually my executive producer sa Sports Desk in CNN. My original writing team were writers from The Score, from ABS-CBN,
Oh yeah.
and then my SP is from TV5. My segment producer, my one of our segment producers is from TV5, but used to work with me sa CNN. So there's a lot of familiarity there. Then of course, sa simula we brought in Laura Liman because of
Mm.
her experience as a courtside reporter, and so she's very familiar with sports, and would bring in something different to the show also. And eventually when Lau left, we had a big crossroads to make. How do we develop the show? How do we make it work for, you know not just itself, but then for the entire group, the entire company? And we decided to use this as a place also to develop new talents. Diego Dario got
Mm.
a lot better from when he started. Coach Willie Wilson got his start there also. We also have a lot of great veterans. Boom Gonzalez, Denise Tan, they're very fantastic, so good at what they do. To keep the standards really high. Z Hervasios getting better also. We had Mela Tunay come on over, and then it just became such a mishmash, such a great collection of talent and people growing, getting better together. And I think that's what we realized, at least from us, from a talent perspective, from the personnel perspective, that it became such a good thing for the people who do get to work around it, because it allowed them to get better at the craft, at the job, and to get better perspective for all of the things that we do cover. So right now, like, Willie Wilson's a great media personality, honestly one of the
Yeah.
better analysts
Yeah.
in the UAP. And I remember his very first guesting the game. He was so nervous. His hands were sweaty when I shook his hand. He brought notes, and he brought long notes, handwritten, 2 pages back to back, almost of bond paper. And right now, he's just so comfortable because he knows what to research, knows what to do, knows how to deliver words, knows how to communicate better, and his personality comes out. So we helped him find that. And
Mm.
personally, I'm very happy for those guys. Diego's the same way, and then who and everyone else who's come along also. So hopefully, hopefully it keeps on going, and hopefully we can help. help make the company, help make our sports partners, help make the talent that come by all better. Because that's, again, if you notice how I talk and how I try to go about my work, it's about making the other better, making everyone better. Like my analyst, when I call games as an anchor, my partner when I'm an anchor on the game, the writers on the team, the producers, and what our role is in the whole grand scheme of things at Signal. And yeah, again, Miko Halili was a big part of it, initiating it, being the originator, and helping us develop it to what it is today.
Yeah, I remember also Jello Vito. He's also
Mm.
from the game, and people like bashed him
Oh,
before when he
Jello.
talk
Yeah,
about
and he turned out to be right. Okay.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Jello leaned into that. He leaned into that. Oh my God. But
He
when
has
he
a
said
lot
it,
like
pati ako, nagalit ako sa kanya on air. I remember that. Seryoso ka ba?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. There's one I remember about overrated players in the NBA.
that's it.
Then
That's it. The
yeah,
Bridges one. Out of the blue.
yeah, yeah. The
Turned out to be
Bridges.
right though.
Also the UE LaSalle one, when the more recent one, when he said UE is gonna beat LaSalle, and they actually eliminated. I mean, they could have made it if they beat UE.
So, it's funny because some of his haters, because obviously he has haters because
Yeah,
yeah, well, yeah. There was some of his haters actually, and it's funny. It's like, why is he there? I'm like, he he shoots his shots. He brings the views. You listen because you don't like it, pero tama naman siya. Anong gagawin
yeah,
mo?
yeah, yeah. And that's great. Also, they have a podcast now. Sila Diego
Yeah,
and
I'm
Jello
happy
now.
for them. Really happy for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's great that yeah, Diego's also been one of my favorite analysts now, and also when he's on the game as a host. So that's great. But then yeah, talking about the game, I'm curious to know, like, since it's been going on for like more than 1 to 2 years na ata,
Yeah, 2 years
like you
already.
guys, yeah, you guys have like guests sometimes. Three like segments of different guests, and there were times lang like no holiday season, medyo one guest lang for like all three segments. So how difficult is that for you guys to get like guests? Like it's 5 times a week, so you need to have like various people, and also the topics. It could be repetitive, or people might find it boring. So how's that challenge of getting the guests and the topics every weekday?
Again, it's a collaborative effort. First of all, thank you very
Mm.
much to our guest coordinator, Simika Mirabueno, because she goes
Oh
out
yeah.
there, yeah, and she
Mm.
just finds ways to contact people and book them for a show. Then our team of writers, we meet once a week earlier on a Monday, and then we try and plot out our week as best as we could. We try to anticipate certain results. We try to anticipate certain things that we have to work on, and yeah, we try to encourage everyone to show their personality. So yung mga segments, yung mga games and all that, that's the writers showing off their personalities. Sometimes they're super corny and I'll call them out on air. Um, and I don't mind that. Honestly,
Mhm.
they know to watch out for me. So yeah, it's a very big collaborative effort. I cannot emphasize how thankful I am for their creativity, for their audacity, for their they're crazy. They're crazy people, and sometimes you have
Mm.
to be. So I'm happy for them, and I'm happy that I have the privilege to work with them in that capacity also. So yeah, it's really because of them and the discussions that we all have and the ideas that do flow, the honesty of the criticisms that we give each other, and the praises that we have also. All of that matters, and that's the reason why the show is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then like yeah, since you said it's pretty difficult, it's a collaborative effort of succeeding every day for the game. Like were there times where kunwari they already had something planned, or biglang there was a breaking news that you needed to insert, or something like an interview didn't show up, so you need to think of another segment. So you don't need to mention a name, but like how
Yeah,
did you like
but
adjust on the fly?
Diego, if you can tell when that happens, then we're doing our job, and I'm not gonna give you any clues. I mean, it has happened. It has
Oh, okay.
happened, but I'm never telling you when they've happened.
Yeah, you don't need to, but like how did you guys
Uh,
do it? Like you thought about it, like they were supposed
I'm
to show up there, they
Kasi the
told
show
you.
has to go on. It's simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
The show has to go on. There's a standard
Mm-hmm.
that we have, and we're going to try our best to make sure that whoever tunes in gets what they want and gets entertained. Or sometimes you're not. sometimes, yeah, a guest cancels late. We promoted it already. It doesn't work out. We just have to find a way to fill in that gap, fill in that hole with something similar and still relevant. Because people, for example, like let's say player X from volleyball team Y can confirm, but then hour before suddenly couldn't go. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so ano yung papalitan natin? That's why maintaining relationships is important. So we
Yeah,
make
yeah.
calls, try and figure out ways to fill in that gap on short notice. And some people can come in via Zoom, some people can come in via phone, or some
Mm-hmm.
people who live nearby can come on over, or maybe they're in the area. Ganun, there are ways, and we just have to be flexible and creative. The world can't collapse if one plan fails.
Mm-hmm.
So you move on, and then you try and make the best out of each situation. And you can't get too down on it because there's a show the next day.
Yeah. How about in the opposite side? Like, sino naman yung pag tinawagan mo, more often than not, they show up kahit through Zoom since
I
yun,
don't know.
finding the
Jego's on
negative.
the show all the time right now. See, Dip Bianco works in Signal and does the show, so he's always in the office. So right, I mean, like
Oh,
they're always there. But
yeah.
ganun. Yeah, I mean, like there are a lot. There, but then again, we appreciate all of them, and sometimes being easy to call. It's not necessarily we abuse them like, oh, the pasok ka nice.
Mhm.
It's just, for me, it's nice because it's a symbol that it's a sign that we're doing a good thing in terms of like making sure that our guests or co-hosts are having fun, are enjoying, that it's worth their time. And it's an opportunity that they like. So that's a product of um being consistent over a long period of time of what can we do and what we can do and what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I like that you mentioned was the networking or the relationships part. Because sometimes, like in the like the media space or like here, even me only starting a podcast or seeing players like when I watch live games, like sometimes no one tells you like, oh, say hi to them or like talk to them, like small talk to them. But then sometimes it goes a long way because they like, yeah, you stand out or like whatever you
Yep.
guys talked about. And it's not like written in stone that you should do this, not like
Yeah.
other things. So how do you do that? Like, how did you start doing that? How did you develop having those relationships and having them last through the years?
Well, just being nice. Being nice is the easiest thing that you can do. Saying hi, smiling at them at the hallway. If they, if it's an athlete, they do something good. Let's say some guy drops 30, you're like, hey, great game. Thanks, bro, or whatever. And then you talk, then you chat, and then
Yeah.
or if someone gets hurt, or if you notice someone's limping, hey, you doing good? Even if you
Mhm.
barely know, you never had a conversation, just care about the people around you. Just be nice. And then that
Mhm.
that translates also to the crew, the prod. It's not just the athlete.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have let's say you have a producer who's limping, or you have a producer who's uh or it doesn't have to be bad. Like, if you have a producer that has sunburn visibly, be like, oh, saan ka
Mhm.
galing, ba't ka ganun, or mga
Yeah,
ganun. And
yeah.
you just have a conversation. Just genuinely be nice, genuinely care
Mhm.
about what someone has done. And and just have a nice conversation, because sometimes it's not to be work. Treat people like people in a good way, and you'll be fine.
Mhm.
Then you'll start to build networks that way. Because again, everyone is people: celebrities,
Mhm.
athletes, prod, cameramen, um, even the people who even maintenance. They're all people. You treat them like people. You treat them well like people. It
Mhm.
goes a very long way, very very long way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I try my best to also do that, especially since I'm not like known or whatever yet. So it's great to like get to like build relationships at a young age, even if I'm still studying.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, one question that I'm curious about you is you always make fun of yourself when it's about the Utah Jazz because you feel like you're the only like diehard Utah Jazz fan. So here in the Philippines. So like what's the story behind that? I mean, I think it started when Jordan was against Utah, I think, because
Yeah, yeah,
everyone was
yeah.
against them. How did it
Actually,
last? 20
it
years,
was
20 plus years.
yeah, it started with Jazz against Kobe. Actually, I was in LA with a family when I
Oh,
was like
okay.
really young, and then they were all watching a Jazz Lakers game, and then the Jazz destroyed them because that was when the Jazz were really really good, and Kobe
Okay, yeah.
wasn't Kobe Bryant. Yeah, well, he was Kobe, but he was, yeah,
Their
yeah,
team,
and
yeah.
my whole family in LA, they were all cheering for the Lakers, and they got smashed, and I'm like, oh, they suck, and so I was like, the Jazz are pretty good. They look really good. So I'm like, okay, I'll follow them. Then they ended up in the finals. They lost in the end, but then I was like, and then they made it the next year. I'm like, oh, keep on going. Let's see. And then
Mhm.
I follow whenever I can. That is a product of, they were the team that made me enjoy NBA basketball. So it was hard
Mm.
to separate the joy of watching the NBA from the Utah Jazz for me. So, and I just kept it
Mm.
going. I kept it following. And even when they changed, I'm like, I was invested in the franchise's success. I'm like my first 2 years of supporting you, you were so close. Keep trying. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it just kept on going, and eventually became a running joke. I guess a part of me enjoyed it also, and to be fair, they're an okay team, and
Yeah,
sometimes,
now, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, like there's a time they sucked, but there's
Yeah.
also time that they were amazing, and I thought
Yeah.
that they would go all the way. But
Yeah.
it happens. That's the whole cyclical thing in sports. But can I just say I am not the only hardcore one. I will say I am, but I am
Yeah.
not. There are
Mhm.
others, and it's funny because in the PBA, sometimes someone's wearing a Jazz jersey, lalapit na sa akin, oh, Sir Pao, Utah. I'm like, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's funny
Yeah,
nga.
there's
Oh,
some. I
yeah.
should post about it, but then that will
Yeah.
destroy my whole. I'm the only Jazz fan in the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
what's
yeah,
the
it's
story
all good.
also? That was curious. Like I think you took a picture like here in nearby in Hillsboro that you
Mhm.
got featured in New York Times. Wasn't that in Hillsboro, like that
Yeah,
court
yeah, that was in
in
Hampton Court in Hillsboro.
yeah. How
Um,
was that story to that?
well, it's funny 'cause I have to thank Nico Ramos, who I used to work under in Slam. What happened was
Mm.
Scott Casciola, who was the writer for the New York Times. He messaged. He was going to do a story on Jordan Clarkson, who was obviously doing very well for the Jazz that in his first year with the Jazz,
Mhm.
and his roots, his Philippine roots, was very much in the spotlight, especially after. I'm not sure if this happened after or before, but especially after he helped the Filipino community in Utah after they were attacked
Yeah.
by by racist events, right? So he did a feature on Jordan Clarkson's connections to the Philippines, and he messaged Nico to ask about it and asked if he knew any Utah fan, and immediately. Again, it pays to say that I'm the only jazz fan in the country. He gave me his number, and he gave my number to him. He called me, we had a conversation, and the New York Times sent in a photographer to come on by to
Wow. Yeah.
shoot, and the photographer turned out to be uh, a Nobel Award winning photographer to shoot me in jazz jerseys. So Hannah Morales, maraming salamat. She was no, so she didn't win a Nobel, but she was one of the how do I say this? She did something for the Nobel Prize
Yeah.
when Maria Ressa won. I think she took all the photos, and then, anyway, she was featured. Some really big, stupidly big award, and in my head, I'm like thinking she shoots for National Geographic. Her works are so moving.
Yeah.
I'm on the New York Times newspaper with her as my photographer wearing a jazz jersey. Oh
Yeah.
my god, what's happening? So
Yeah.
ayun, it all worked out. I have a soft copy of because they couldn't send me a New York Times copy. They sent me
Mm.
the soft copy of the actual print, so I can print it out whenever I want. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. One of my favorite moments for sure. The Utah Jazz contacted me actually after that
Oh,
because
okay.
they wanted to hook up with me, and they couldn't fly me there because of the pandemic. So what I did was with them in partnership with them was that for the junior NBA camp this year, I made sure that they were in contact with the right people to send over 50 Jordan Clarkson Utah jerseys to the Philippines to different campers here. So, I'm spreading the gospel of the Jazz in very quiet ways.
Well, that's great. That you're a really diehard Utah fan, and I like basketball fans or like sports fans that stick to their team, whatever happens, because there's a lot that easily just go wherever when they start losing or they start having some hurdles. So I like that you're sticking it out. But this is one last sports question before I go to
Mhm.
like the standard questions I ask the guests before they go. Is how about what's your thoughts on LaSalle getting Coach Topex Robinson? I mean, I see you watching some of the games live also in the arena. You're wearing green, so I know you're like supporting the
Yeah.
Green Archers from afar. So what's your whole thoughts on that? Since the Shawnee Winston stuff, we leave that in 2022. But how about now in 2023 with this whole team, new
I'm
team?
curious. I like Coach Topex as a coach. I think that he really enjoys teaching. He really enjoys developing personality, not just basketball. I think he's going to be very good for the program. I think he's very ambitious. He bet on himself to be in it because let's be completely fair. People in the collegiate ranks, the college coaches want to do well, so they end up with a professional job, a PBA job,
Mm.
because stability, it's hard, and the money, obviously. But then Coach Topex couldn't say no to LaSalle, so it's a big bet on himself also, and because it's a risky job. LaSalle's a very
Yeah.
risky job because of
Yeah.
the expectations alongside it,
Yeah.
right? So I think Coach Topex, we all know that he's a great college coach. He's shown that in LPU. He was really great in helping develop CJ Perez to the person that he is. I say
Mm.
person because he turned him into a very good person
Yeah.
too. Um, I think he's going to be great. Um, there's always going my biggest question for him will always be, how does he cope with this type of pressure, because this is the first major program he's actually going to be with.
Mhm.
I'd probably say the only major programs in basketball in general are Lasal, Ateneo, UP, Ginebra, San
Yeah.
Miguel, TNT, Magnolia, and the MVP, SMCT. I mean, like
Yeah.
these are the teams that come with a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
a lot of.
I see that.
I mean, like it's not to disparage any of the other franchises and all of that,
Yeah.
but then siguro a lot of people will look at them as the ones that are favored because of the stability, because of
Mhm.
the expectation, because of the assets that they have. So LaSalle is probably one of them, and him taking this job is a risk. It's an interesting one. I'm very curious to see how he handles the pressure from the alumni, how he handles
Mhm.
the pressure from the crowd in general. It's going to be a lot of pressure on the guy. So for me, the staffing is going to be very important. Obviously, we heard
Mhm.
reports about Coach Kaloy Garcia coming in, who's
Mhm.
a great personality. Also, Coach Willie Wilson has been again reported to go. I don't have personal confirmation on that.
Yeah.
A
Same.
lot of a lot of great names, a lot of great personalities, different backgrounds as well. So a lot of excitement. I'm excited, to be honest. And I know he can coach the hell out of a college team. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And like Evan and KQ already said that they're
Yeah,
coming back
yeah,
for at least one more season for KQ. And Evan is his final year already in
yeah,
college ball. So yeah, hopefully we make the finals or win the
yeah.
championship. Because during my whole college time, we never won the championship. So if ever
I
we
was like
win,
that. I remember I was a college student during the Ateneo 5 beat. So
yeah, see something like that. I mean, we had the
oh, 8
pandemic,
to
but
13.
still.
Oh, 8 to 13. Nag-champion si
Yeah.
Coach Norman Black. He made my life a living hell. I remind him all the time.
Yeah. One of my friends from LaSalle Green Hills, he said na dapat like when our first year we didn't make the final four, and then he was like, oh, dapat at least once mag-champion. We didn't even reach the finals
Yeah.
even
Well,
during our
let's see.
whole
Let's see.
college.
We were close. We were close against that UP one last year. I remember. 2 seasons ago. So yeah, we
Yeah.
should have won that one, honestly. And then Carl
Yeah.
Tamayo decided to grow up uh, in front of our
Yeah.
very eyes in that fourth quarter. But yeah, there it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to ask a couple of questions. And yeah,
Sure.
thanks again, Paolo, for joining me on the pod. So yeah, one is like naman that the NBA players are more focused now on like talking about social and political issues and
Mm-mm.
other stuff in their country, and they're more vocal and because they know they have a platform. So people like you or like sports personalities who have like the following or the platform to talk about these issues. What's your opinion on like sports personalities or athletes being more vocal? Like, do you think it's good, or do you think you're indifferent about it, or what's your opinion, especially here in the Philippines where people are more like timid before, but now in the election season, like here in the pandemic, people are more vocal if they know something's wrong.
I think people are more comfortable showing their colors right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just to use a yeah, showing their colors more. I'm not gonna say I'm indifferent. I am not going to say I encourage it also.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that sometimes people take silence as an answer, as
Mm-hmm.
meaning something. But then sometimes someone's livelihood is tied to someone else. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't blame someone for not talking sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I can't also blame anyone for talking too much also. So
Mm-hmm.
um I when people do speak up though and it feels genuine, I honestly I'm more than okay with it. Whether or not I
Mm-hmm.
disagree or not. It's when people say stick to sports, it's like people say it's like someone telling you stop being a person, or
Yeah.
you're just an it's like they're taking away a piece of your humanity for me. Like you're not allowed to have an opinion. You're a
Mm-hmm.
robot. You're someone I see on TV just to score points. You're a horse on a racetrack. That's for me. That's not how it's supposed to be. I mean, like the reason why we fall in love with athletes is because of their personality, and sometimes personality is tied in their beliefs. So
Yeah, absolutely.
for
Yeah.
me, that's again, I'm not going to whether I agree or not with their stance. Encourage I would be okay with it, rather, and not encourage, but be okay with it, and not be too high or too low on that particular topic personally.
Yeah, yeah. I get your point. Yeah, I agree with it too. Yeah, for the next question, it's just a fun one. If you had the opportunity to have dinner with five people, dead or alive, who would you invite?
Oh, that's really really tough. Alive. Well, my comedy hero, his name is Mel Brooks. I want to have dinner with him. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
just a great dinner with him. Lalabas na yung pagka-film major ko. So, it's him, uh, Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorite directors of all time. Ron Howard, because I love his humor. I genuinely love his humor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Conan O'Brien, who is someone I actually pattern a bit of I emulate in terms of my interview style.
Oh,
Athlete.
okay.
Athletes interesting. It's I don't know. Maybe I see too many athletes that I don't
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
chance. No, but actually, I would love to have Kobe Bryant in that conversation because he's also a
Mm-hmm.
media nut. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Kobe. I met Kobe. It was one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had in my life. One of the most
Mm-hmm.
interesting um connections I've ever had. Because when NBA stars come here, sometimes they just come in, they do their obligations, they
Yeah,
talk to you for like a second. Kobe Bryant, when he came to the Philippines the last time he was here before he passed,
yeah,
was preaching Mamba mentality
yeah.
for the media event after making us run for literally 24 minutes. Sat us down as if we were grade school a grade school PE class on bleachers, stood in front of us and explained to us how Mamba mentality could work in our daily lives. It was no one does that.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one does that. I mean, like
yeah,
it was so weird. It was weird in a great way.
yeah.
And it, and here's a quote that I don't think anyone published after during that event. We were all just shooting at one point, and Kobe was in the area, and I think it may have been Mark Zambrano
Oh,
who
yeah.
shouted out, hey Kobe, why don't you have a game with us? Or Kobe, why don't you shoot with us? And then he said, nah, I retired at 60. And I'm like, shut up. That was against my jazz.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh man, but
yeah.
it was just gold. It was really gold. Yeah, Kobe Bryant definitely. So yeah, Ron Howard, Mel Brooks, Ron Howard, Mel Brooks, Conan O'Brien, uh, Kobe Bryant. Did I only give four? Did I give
No, you gave
ah
five.
Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino. Yeah,
Yeah.
there.
For the
Yeah.
final question, if you had the opportunity to like give me suggestions who I should invite here on the podcast that has a great story to tell or just a fun person to talk to about sports or like any current sporting events, who would you suggest?
That's interesting. Kasi ang grabe na yung guest list mo eh. I don't know. I don't know who. Man, I honestly, Gretchen Hall's a good friend. I don't know if you interview. I think you've interviewed Gretchen. Have you
Yeah.
interviewed? Yeah, Gretchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not her. She's boring.
Or who can I
Uh,
invite again? Like something else to talk about. Yeah.
no, I wonder who else. Honestly, look. First of all, you have such an impressive roster of people you've interviewed already. So it's hard for me to pick out anyone that you haven't invited. Uh, see, yeah, there's just a lot. If you want someone with a lot of experience with if you want to go advocacy related, Siege Dantenko does a lot of
Oh
great work
yeah.
for women
I haven't
empowerment.
had him.
Yeah, yeah, she's had an interesting story. She's done a lot. She's it's I've had a chance to work with her from time to time. That's really interesting. See,
Mhm.
for athletes, Harvey Gayoso is an interesting one for
Oh yeah. I
football
haven't
because
had him
imagine
too.
a dad who played the PBA. He had a choice to play basketball or football. Was really really good in basketball. I think he could have
Mhm.
played you up, if he decided to instead try this up with football. Um, there's a lot. I don't know. Pero syempre, if you want the big hitters, get Gretchen again. Trending ka nun.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. But then, yeah,
Yeah,
she was a fun interview. Buti nga I was able to interview her because she was
yeah,
busy that day. So,
yeah.
nakasingit lang yung 1 hour. And so,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
thank you again, Paolo, for joining me on the podcast. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, like the length of the episode similar to when I had your dad. Also, he said a lot of things when I had
Oh,
him
I
on
should
the
have suggested
podcast.
my dad, but he's boring too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any final message before you go?
Yeah. Just keep being, like I said a while ago, just keep being a nice person, and
Mm,
it's life in terms of your career, in terms of what you're doing. It's a lot easier and a lot more fulfilling
mm,
if you do it not for yourself but for the people around you. Uh,
mm,
if you have a show, it's for your audience, it's for the people who work alongside you, your crew, your production. If you're an athlete, your teammates, if you succeed, they succeed. You're the staff, everyone, to the ball boy, to the coaches. As long as you do things for others, you're good.
yeah. So thank you again, Paolo. And before you go, is it okay if we take a picture?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, I'll take it. One, two, three. Okay, thank you again, Paolo,
Perfect.
for joining me on the pod. And yeah, see you soon. Hopefully at
See
the
you
games.
soon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, good luck. Maybe you'll end up in a PBA one day.
Yeah, hopefully.